What's with all the police everywhere? I'm not supposed to tell. You know the butcher? The freaking nut job that goes around chopping people up? The feds heard that he's gonna be here today. So they set up a trap for him. This whole concert, it's a trap. They're watching all the exits, they're checking everyone that leaves. There's no way to get out of here. I've never felt this before.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Lobby, a podcast that lives here on the Real Lovers podcast feed. And we are right at the end of summer, or shall I say hot Shyamalan summer or trap summer, because today in The Lobby, we are talking about the latest M. Night Shyamalan film, Trap, the second M. Night Shyamalan film, the second one that he's produced so far this year. And here to talk about that movie with me is a returning guest here on the podcast. He is 1/3 of the movie ranking space on Twitter, and you can follow him on Letterboxd about it, where he's talking about movies pretty much all the time with the username Fonzie the Snowman. Alfie, welcome back to the lobby. How you doing?
Hey Marley, thanks for having me back. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while. You've covered 2 movies, I believe, on the Letterboxd Top 250 on the main series that we're covering on the Real Lovers podcast, and I believe it was Cure, and then also Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I'm sorry, we both hated that film. So.
That was impactful. I think they were both impactful in different ways.
Very much, they're very much impactful in different ways, much like the film, much like Trap. But before we get into talking about Trap, just you want to tell everyone like your kind of like experience, or just how you started watching M. Night Shyamalan films, and then what led you to today?
Yeah, I've actually been a fan of him forever, pretty much. I think the first film that I watched from him was Signs, a little bit after it came out. I think probably when the DVD came out after it went to theaters, because my dad actually bought it for me with a copy as well of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I remember. And I used to have those 2 films on DVD, and I used to watch them all the time. And Signs is just, I think, top 5 movies that I've seen the most. I think I've seen it like 70 times, I would say. Yeah, I know everything about that movie. I know all the dialogue and everything. It's crazy.
It's been a minute since I watched Signs, but that from what I remember from a kid, like I remember loving like everything that happened in that movie. And yeah, but continue.
Yeah, and then later on, I decided to get into him a little bit later, actually, pretty much after his vitriol moment that he had with Last Airbender and After Earth. Actually, I watched The Visit, which was like a reboot he was doing of his career, really. Low budget found footage movie that I think it was the first film that he funded himself. And I watched that in theaters, and I loved that movie. And I've never really gotten the hate he got. Like, I do think that Last Airbender and After Earth are bad, but I think every filmmaker has at least 2 really bad movies. So I don't really know. Okay, it isn't really that big of a deal. But actually, since then, since The Visit, I've actually seen all of his films in theaters. So I think this is the 6th one. I think Trap since then. So yeah, a big fan.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of his work as well. And I remember watching The Sixth Sense with my brother. I rented it from the video store, and just not really totally grasping like the twist at the very end. I thought it was like mind-blowing at the time, but I don't the thing that I've always never really cared for, like when people are talking about M. Night Shyamalan, is that they're always like putting him in like this box. Oh, you're the twist guy. But the thing that I've always appreciated about M. Night is that he's always willing to like reinvent himself, and like he's not just the twist guy. He's not like the horror guy. He's just whatever he wants to make. And I feel like, especially now in the year 2024, filmmakers like M. Night Shyamalan are very hard to come by now, because especially now with we just saw D23 recently. It's all sequels, it's all remakes, and that just doesn't seem like it's M. Night's bag. And I'm just glad that he's still making movies and we're able to talk about a new M. Night Shyamalan movie in 2024.
Yeah, and even then, he's really one of the most reliable directors working right now, not only from a business perspective, because he funds his films now and they usually make a lot of money. Because
Mhm.
he's a name, like if you say someone like Chris Nolan or James Cameron, people recognize his name and they like to watch his films. So I think, especially as a director of color, I think it's very important. I think his footprint in pop culture in general is just very underrated.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned even like his footprint as like a person of color. I remember, I'm not sure if you remember this, Alfie, but the first like thing that I saw of M. Night Shyamalan, like after seeing The Sixth Sense, was that Time magazine, like a front page where it just shows like the next Spielberg. It's him just like on the cover, just looking majestic and just like I've never seen like especially like when I was growing up, I've never seen someone that looked like him like presented in like this godlike figure, especially like here in the States. So seeing like M. Night Shyamalan just presented in this way and just making the types of films that you don't necessarily see like South Asian filmmakers like make like especially well today you see a lot of South Asian filmmakers make pretty similar movies, but like when he was first starting out, you never saw necessarily people that looked like him, and I thought that was always really refreshing. So
Yeah, exactly. Even going back to that cover you mentioned where he was being called the next Spielberg, which I never really got because at that point, if you see his films, the early ones like Sixth Sense or Signs or Unbreakable, I don't really see the resemblance really. Like even if you compare thematically similar films, for example, like Signs with Close Encounters, these are films like are nothing alike. So I never really
mhm.
understood that, but I love that nowadays his own thing. He was never like the new anything. It was just like he's M. Night Shyamalan, and he's the first M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, and I've always really loved just the like way he composed shots. That's the kind of like the one thing that I keep always going back to M. Night Shyamalan, even though he has stinkers like Last Airbender. Even though I know everyone hates Last Airbender and justifiably it's not a very good film, I do think it's a little overhated on social media. People go in a little bit too hard, and I do agree with you. It's every filmmaker has their dud or the film that they made because they needed to pay rent. And that's how, especially when M. Night Shyamalan is self funding most of his films, he definitely needs to do at least one of those in his career. Yeah, it's filmmakers have duds every now and then.
Yeah.
But yeah, but M. Night Shyamalan, just a really great filmmaker. But let's lead into our discussion of his newest film, Trap. So, Alfie, what do you like your over like you just saw this about a couple of days ago, right?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah. What are your overall thoughts on this new era, or not this new film for M Night from M Night Shyamalan?
Yeah, so by the way, yeah, I was actually supposed to watch it on Friday, but I was feeling sick, so I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and watch it probably on tomorrow or Sunday. And the
Mhm,
thing is that I actually live like 3 blocks from the theater,
mhm.
and then like I went on Sunday and I was like, okay, let me go ahead and get a screening of tickets. And then they were like, you know what, we're actually not showing it anymore. And I was like, what? Why? And I was like, yeah, we needed the space to for more screenings for It Ends With Us.
Oh,
And
jeez.
yeah,
No
and
shade, no shade. It ends with
I
us.
was like, okay, no shade, but damn it, Blake Lively. Oh my god. So I had to go to the other side of town to another theater that was showing it, and I was just so frustrated. But since the moment the film began, everything, all of that, just I just forgot about it because from the very beginning, the even the setup of the movie is just wow. This is just incredibly directed. I think that's the thing about Shyamalan. I do watch his films for his directing. I really don't care about the script. I don't care about the story. I know it's gonna be insane because they usually are crazy. That's fun. That's the thing about him, that his films are not only really well made, but they're so fun. And this one, I would say, this is the most fun I've had. from his recent streak of films.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think it's definitely a fun film. I like Old for being a fun film as well, just because it's just, especially that third act is just absolutely like insane. But I feel like this is the most accessible, fun M. Night Shyamalan film. Like there is still a lot of. I always tell people before they go into an M. Night Shyamalan film, just surrender yourself to this man, and just buy into everything that he put on the page, put on the screen, and just let him take you into this world. And if you do that, you're gonna have a really great time. And that's what I did. And I think this is top 5 Shyamalan in my opinion.
I would agree. Yeah, I think it might be my favorite film of the year. I think I would need to watch it again, probably until it comes out on VOD, because I'm not sure if they're still playing it. But yeah, I do think this is top 5, not only because I think at this point he knows his strength and what people love about his films, and not saying like that he's like catering into audiences, but I do think that, not to brag, but I think that Shyamalan audience is, it's people who really know what they want to watch, and people who, are not afraid to be taken into a journey that's maybe insane and crazy, because that's the thing. His films are just insane, and you know that something really crazy is gonna happen, and you're just like, hell yeah.
I will agree with you, but some of the responses that I've been getting on Letterboxd or even just across social media about people complaining about the logistics of everything that's going on. For anyone that hasn't seen Trap, this film stars Josh Hartnett and like his daughter Salika Shyamalan, who plays like the artist that is putting on like this concert, and Josh Hartnett is like this lovable dad. Can I say lovable dad that just wants the best for his daughter? She wants his daughter to have a good time at this concert, and Josh Hartnett is revealed in the trailers and within the first act is that he's like a serial killer, and it like the whole idea of this concert is that the FBI created like this trap to get like this Josh Hartnett character.
This whole concert is a trap.
It's a trap from Star Wars.
Yeah.
But the people that are complaining about the logistics of everything, I'm just like, I never hear anyone complain about the logistics of any other movie, but they're complaining about like this super elaborate trap in an M. Night Shyamalan film. And I'm just like, isn't that what being a creative is all about? And just because I love what M. Night Shyamalan is doing here, because he's described it as like Silence of the Lambs, but at a Taylor Swift concert, which I think is a perfect way to describe like this movie. But I feel like people are just taking this movie a little bit too seriously.
Yeah, exactly. I think unfortunately I think people have not moved on from The Last Airbender, and there's always this hate that makes no sense coming to him for any film, because every time there's a trailer coming out, you're gonna see the YouTube comments like, oh my god, who is giving M. Night Shyamalan money to make movies? Who is giving this and that? Why is he still working? I'm like, what do you mean? He made one bad movie that you didn't like. What do you mean? His movies make, like, I think Split, for example, I think it made 300 times its budget. Like, what do you mean they're not? And even then, they're not even funding it because he's doing it himself.
Yeah,
so
like
it's just people trying to be mean to him, and that's the thing. I do have to say that if I think someone who just gets caught up in this contrivances of whatever, oh, okay, so this is too convenient or this is whatever, and that's just the most boring person you could ever watch a movie with. Because I actually, a friend of mine watched it yesterday as well, and he was like complaining about the same thing. So this couldn't happen, this is stupid or whatever. And I was like, dude, it's a movie. Of course this is gonna happen, otherwise they would catch him like midway through the movie and the movie would be over. Okay, sure, of course.
Exactly. It's just, isn't that what the whole point of going to movies? At least that's why I go to the movies, is I want to just be completely sucked into the experience. And that's something that M. Night Shyamalan can do. And a lot of people would push back on what I said there, just because they'll say, "Oh, M. Night Shyamalan's dialogue is what pulls me out of the movie." I will say that's like you said, like a valid argument for M. Night Shyamalan's movies, why they're not good. But I will just say, as a writer myself that's trying to write my own screenplay, dialogue is hard. Dialogue is very hard to write, especially when you're writing characters that don't necessarily fall in line with you as a person. And I feel like M. Night Shyamalan is honestly trying his best and just trying to make these characters as relatable as possible, but also part of the charm of his dialogue. I'm trying to think this out in real time a little bit, but part of the charm of the dialogue is allowing you to get pulled in by this realistic dialogue and then pull you out and realize like it's just a movie. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's because the story still, I think it lets you this kind of heightened dialogue and performances. It just lets you enjoy the movie a lot more. I was actually comparing him with David Cronenberg because he's also someone who usually gets this kind of criticism. I don't know if you saw like people talking about Crimes of the Future when it came out, and everyone was like, "Why is Kristen Stewart talking like that? And why is Viggo talking like that?" And everybody talks like this in the Cronenberg movie. Like it is like the first time you watch one, it's just his thing. And at this point, you can see his films, and pretty much everyone talks like this. And I don't understand why people don't get this, or why they don't give him this kind of freedom that they give someone like, I don't know, like Wes Anderson or Yorgos Lanthimos, who also have this kind of different way of delivering dialogue from the actors. So
Yeah.
that's it's upsetting.
Yeah, it's definitely upsetting. And adding on to what you said, that like people talk like that in a Cronenberg like film, like people talk like that to Cronenberg, and that's how Cronenberg like picks up dialogue just like in his everyday life. And I'm pretty sure M. Night Shyamalan is like the same way. And this is just how people talk in M. Night Shyamalan's world. And people need to like step out of their bubble and be like, and going back to what I said, and just surrender yourself to M. Night Shyamalan, because this is how he sees the world in a way. Obviously, like in a very fantasy setting, because Trap is just like a very fantastical movie, but it's just I don't know. I appreciate that about M. Night Shyamalan for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's always people like trying to hate on something that, I mean, at this point, like if you don't enjoy his films, like why still watch them? What's your point?
They're just watching the hate at this point. But yeah, so we did our overall thoughts on Trap. So we're about 20 minutes into this podcast. Let's just get into the spoiler part of Trap, just because you can't really talk about this movie without spoiling it in a way. Even though
Yeah.
the trailers do spoil pretty much most of it. Actually, the trailers don't. This is like another criticism that I heard from people saying that the trailer gave away everything. I don't think the trailer gave away all that much, except for that Josh Hartnett is playing a serial killer. What I loved most about Trap is that it goes back to what I was saying, how people are putting M. Night Shyamalan in a box, saying that he's like the twist guy, and hearing like the interviews like leading up to Trap, and people are like saying, "Oh, what's the twist? What's the twist? You're the twist guy." M. Night Shyamalan like bucks that trend very much, like in this movie, because it's almost like a twist in reverse, like a twist that is like it's raveled up and then unraveling as the movie goes forward. And I don't know, I just thought this movie was a ride for sure. So
Yeah. And the thing about the twist, I feel that actually he has left that behind for the most part, because I didn't feel Knock at the Cabin had a twist really, or even Glass, or at least a twist that would be like something like The Sixth Sense
yeah.
or anything like that. So for the most part, I think he has left that behind. So it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that he doesn't stock himself into, okay, so I'm the twist guy, so I need to have a twist here. So he's just,
Yeah,
I just love the freedom that he has as a filmmaker.
exactly. And especially that freedom, since he's working outside like the studio system as well, even though Trap is distributed by Warner Brothers, but I'm pretty sure he had all like full control. But let's get into spoilers. Is there anything you want to bring up like in the spoiler section that just blew your mind with this film? Because I got plenty.
I got plenty too. I think for the second half of the movie, I was just like, wow, this is this is, first of all, this movie is really funny, and not in a way that, there are movies that are funny because they're awful and they're like, wow, this is stupid. It's just so funny because it's clearly constructed as for you to laugh at what Josh Hartnett is like mechanizing in his head to escape this stadium. Because from the very I don't know if you're gonna start from like the beginning of the movie.
Oh, let's start at the beginning of the movie. We've already established that Josh Hartnett is taking his daughter to this concert, and the concert put on by Salika Shyamalan, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, but goes by Lady Raven in this
Lady
movie.
Raven, yeah.
Which, by the way, I've been listening to the soundtrack ever since I saw this movie, and she's really good.
She's really good, and I would say that I'm so happy that she wasn't just like a background character for just that. First of all, I love that we didn't spend the whole movie at the concert because I think that would have been boring, and I love that she was like an actual character after that, and that she had like her own agency and her own like plot within this huge trap going on.
And people are hating a little bit on her acting. Her acting isn't great, to be honest, but I feel like she's doing the best she can, especially like in this, like the situation like that she was put in, like within the movie. And I don't know, I didn't think it was as bad as people were saying. This is her first film. Like, she's like a musician normally, and to have like her dad just be like, I'm gonna put you in this movie, like for real, like that might have been a bit of a shock, but it's her dad, so I don't.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't think she was. I don't think she was bad at all in the movie. I do think that there are a couple scenes which is a little shaky, but I think for the most part she's able to like level Josh Hartnett in what her reaction is supposed to be of what's going on. So I think she did what her character is supposed to be doing. I don't think she was bad at all in the movie.
No, I don't think so. But going back a little bit towards the beginning of this movie, we start getting a few hints that something weird is going on. And as M. Night Shyamalan, this is what I think M. Night Shyamalan is the best at, about setting up situations. He's brilliant at setting up what's about to happen in a movie. And I especially for this movie, I think the setup is done in a very particular way. It's almost like this movie was designed just because he took his daughter to a concert, and it's just M. Night like looking around, like bored, and trying to figure out like, how do I make this more interesting? How do I make this concert more interesting? I'm not digging these artists that the kids are listening to, and he's just, oh, there's a security guy taking some guy out. I'm like, I wonder what he did, and it's just, I don't know. I just think it's funny how I just like to think like how this movie like came about, like him being bored at a concert that he took his daughters to. So.
Yeah, I think he does seem like the kind of guy that he's anywhere, and he's, what if this happened where I'm right now? He was probably at the beach when he thought about old, and I was like, how about guys, hear me out?
His family's just like, Dad, quit embarrassing me.
I think this one is just as funny as Old. I think because Old, the funniest thing about Old is that at the end, there wasn't really anything wrong with the beach. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. But this one, I would say the best thing about this is that Josh Hartnett knows exactly the movie that he's in and that he's making. And I think that's the best thing that could happen, because there are always a lot of actors in movies who don't know what kind of movie they're in. I usually have like just to give an example, like a movie like House of Gucci, for example, because I love Lady Gaga's performance in that movie, because she really knows what movie she's making. It's like this Ridley Scott crazy, like really extravagant story, and everyone is just okay, like they're making The Godfather or something. So I think that's why it doesn't work.
I thought you were going to refer to Jared Leto's performance in House of Gucci, but I'm glad that you didn't mention his name. So.
I'd say that I think the two people that didn't know what movie they were in were Adam Driver and Al Pacino.
Al Pacino, he's losing it already, so I don't really know if he no shade to Al Pacino. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I do love the comedy in this movie because the way it's like crafted, way M. Night Shyamalan crafts like the comedy, it's not necessarily laughing at Josh Hartnett's character. It's more like, isn't this guy crazy? And we're just gonna laugh at the situation he keeps putting himself in. And just I don't know. I want to say M. Night Shyamalan was being serious at this moment because there's a scene in Trap when it's after he meets Jamie. With the whole Jamie situation, when he first meets like the t-shirt guy or whatever, and that whole situation, and Josh Hartnett walks up to him and he's just like,
Hey,
what's going on here? Why is there so much security?
The funniest thing about this interaction is that they were having this whole conversation about the shirt, and then Josh Hartnett just moves to the side, and then he's hey, come here, let's have a completely different conversation. But for some reason, let's go ahead and change positions to this other side of the stall, and then let's just keep talking, but about something completely different.
And no one is going to wonder anything or anything like that. What are those two talking about? Even when you have FBI agents just roaming around, just like trying to figure out who the butcher is.
Yeah.
When
by the way, Jamie. He's a yapper. He's a yapper for real. He cannot keep a secret because Josh Hartnett was just like, "Hey, so what's going on? What are these cops doing here?" And he was just like, "Okay, I'll tell you, but don't tell anyone."
I will tell you because you're a good family man. Like,
yeah.
You have good values. Oh man, it's because because he let his daughter have like that like girl. By the way, like his daughter was like, she wanted like the small shirt, Lady Raven shirt, and like the girl next door was just like, I was here first, and I'm just like, geez, rude much. Kids are savage these days. But that's when Jamie was just like, no, what? You guys have good values because you let that girl have the shirt. You know your daughter was clearly here first.
And by the way, Riley and that other girl, they were clearly not the same size.
Yeah. One was 6 foot tall. The other one was like...
She was a full grown, she was at least 21. And she was like, can I have this? I gotta have this small shirt. Like, girl, that shirt doesn't fit you and you're fighting for it. Like, what's going on with you?
Maybe she was, what are those shirts called that go up to your belly or whatever?
Oh yeah, just using it as a crop top.
Yeah, maybe she was going for crop top style because that's in these days. But
yeah,
that scene was ridiculous. But I feel like the scene after that, after he comes back, because they go. But here's like another thing that kind of doesn't really make sense to me, but I threw it out the window. Is this concert has a lot of intermissions. And I understand that M. Night Shyamalan has to do this stuff like that because you have to get like these characters talking, give them some time to breathe. But like for an actual concert, it doesn't really make sense. But like when Josh Hartnett tells like Riley, hey, I lost my credit card. I'll be right back. Stay right here. And he goes back to the t-shirt stand and he's, hey, I got this shirt for you. You want to come? And he's, I'll just be back. Let me go grab it from the back. And Josh Hartnett, Cooper, basically says, oh, can I come with you? I'm like, I don't think we were allowed to do that.
And he was like, the funny thing was that Jamie was like, sure, come with me. Hey, can you guys just take my spot with this 100 people line while I just get this shirt in the back room? Like, what?
Let me hang out with my new best friend, Cooper, that I spoke 2 words to.
And then they got this box and he was like, oh, wow, you're strong. And then and then he was like, okay, I don't think Josh Hartnett was even saying anything. He was like, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I'm obsessed by serial killers. Let me show you these gruesome murders on my phone.
And the brilliant thing that I love about this movie is PG-13, by the way. And it's about like a character called the Butcher that chops people up in his spare time. And this movie doesn't show like any like gruesome murders or anything like that, and I feel like that's like part of the restraint that I love that M. Night Shyamalan has. I totally believe that Cooper did everything that he said that he did, just because of the performance that Josh Hartnett was giving and just like his demeanor. And that's the restraint that I love, because like it tells you everything without saying anything at all, without showing anything at all.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my, I just had, I don't know, man, I just had the greatest time with this movie. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think the funniest part, I think the one that I laughed the most was when I think at this point, I think he already knew that like all the entrances were sealed, and they were like, so the only way out is through the backstage. And well, there were two moments. So the first one was like when this guest guy came out of the floor, and he was like, "Oh my God, look at this tramp right here! Wouldn't it be fun if we just go down there?"
It's like he was like tells Riley, "Don't you want to know what's down there? You probably find some cool merch. Don't you
Yeah,
want to know how the show gets put on?" That line right there, "Don't you want to know how the show is put on?" That feels like that's an M. Night Shyamalan like line of dialogue, because that sounds like something he would say if he was with
yeah,
at a concert with his daughter, because it's he wants to know every little thing about a performance or anything like that. I don't know. He loves the details. So.
yeah. And she was like, "Dad, what are you talking about? That's crazy."
Oh,
But then I was laughing, and then I was not expecting to laugh more just a little bit later when she was telling him about the Dreamer Girl song and that Lady Raven would pick someone, and he was like, "Okay, I got it. All I have to do is somehow get Lady Raven to get Riley up on this stage." And then he just walks around a little bit, and he was just like, "Hey, do you work? Do you work for
it
her?" And he was
bumps
like,
into the stage, whatever, stage manager or something like that.
"Yeah, let me just
Out
talk to
of
the stage manager."
30,000 people, he just randomly bumps into like her stage manager, who is played by M. Night Shyamalan of all people.
Yeah,
So,
and
which
also a stage managers who happens to be his uncle. Her uncle, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
to stay a little bit on that, like this is another reason why I love M. Night Shyamalan movies, because he's one of the few directors like working today that likes to put himself in his own movies. And I'm always like, whenever I'm watching like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, I'm always like, where's he gonna pop up? Where's he gonna pop up? And he pops up in the most brilliant way here, just because I'm like, I can see that. I can see him being a stage manager.
Yeah, and because you can see him like walking towards him, and I
Mhm.
could see like his silhouette, and I was like, that's him, that's him. I know that's him, and it was him.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. I was definitely laughing pretty hard at that scenario, just because it's so ridiculous. Oh, Riley, she's recovering from leukemia. It's a brilliant move to have Cooper get like these people on his side to get Riley up on stage so they can go backstage. So I can understand why Cooper went this direction. But the thing that the movie doesn't really mention at all is Riley doesn't know that she has leukemia. I wanted to have that line where they mention like, "Oh, how's the recovery process going?" And Riley's talking about.
I was waiting for someone to be like, to sleep and be like, oh, I hope that I'm so glad to hear that you recover, that you're doing good now. And for her to be like, what are you
Yeah,
talking about?
exactly. Like another, I think the thing that I laughed the hardest at though, like in this movie, I feel like an asshole a little bit, because I felt for this character just because of what happened to them. But the scene where where Cooper was trying to cause a diversion, and at first he was like, I'm gonna pull the fire alarm. And then this is when he has like the walkie that he randomly stole from FBI agents or just like the police officers that are patrolling. Like no one knew about the walkie-talkie or anything like that. He's just walking around with an earpiece in his ear just randomly. But
Yeah.
it's when he realized, like when Haley Mills, the FBI agents are trying to track him down, she basically tells over the walkie, oh, he's thinking about pulling the fire alarm and causing like a diversion. And he's, oh, probably can't do that because they're expecting that. So you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the snack bar, get a bottle of oil and throw it in the fryer. And the worker's just going to stand there staring at the fryer, and it's going to explode in her face. It's like, why not? Why stare directly at it? Just, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Boom. And then she gets burned. Absolutely ridiculous, but I loved it. I was like, I think that's the hardest I laughed in the theater, like when that happens.
Yeah, I think then I really laughed really hard a little bit after that when he like steals the apron and goes to the roof. I think this is the best bit of his performance. This is the best part.
He steals the apron and he walks up and he's just like, oh man, there's so much blood everywhere. Oh, it's just like, did they really think he was gonna pass as a 16-year-old concession stand worker?
The funny thing is that he went to the roof for some reason. He thought there was gonna be no one in the roof, and then he saw all these cops, and they were like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And he was like, "Oh my God, there was an accident in the kitchen. There was so much blood. Oh my God, I got scared. Please don't tell my boss."
Please don't tell my boss I took an extra break.
Yeah. And he was like, okay. The cop was just like, okay, there's an accident in the kitchen. So he's telling the truth. Where's your card? And he's like, oh, okay, let me see in this apron. Oh, here it is. Here's my wallet in this apron. And here's this card who has no ID. It's just some card that says Lady Raven or something like that.
I think it said like the name of the stadium. Like it was
yeah.
In it, like a worker there, but the way how stupid these cops were, like the way he was able to outsmart like these cops in like the most dumb and stupid ways. It's just, it reminded me of Metal Gear in a way. I'm not sure if you played Metal Gear like growing up, but it's just like how bad like the AI is in those games where it's like, what was that noise? And they turn their back and walk away. So
like, by the way, I think
mm-hmm.
It's so funny that even after that, because he was like, so everyone, because once they were backstage and he asked like the manager who was like, can we go like through the back to our car? Like, yeah, sure. You're just gonna go to this brief interview. Nothing. It's just something that we are doing. And the funny thing is that Lady Raven, so she's aware of all this, and she's like agreed to this plan to catch this guy. And for some reason, they were like, okay, so everyone has to be clear except for whoever is in Lady Raven's car.
For some reason, like Lady Raven is cleared to go to her limousine without a police.
Yeah, if you see, exactly. And she's, okay, doesn't matter who gets in the car with Lady Raven. It doesn't matter, just let them through, okay? It's okay.
This random dude that has been, I'm pretty sure they've had records of him just like causing like all this havoc throughout the concert. But it's okay. Just let him through because he's good with the kids backstage, okay? Because that girl that he caught when she was about to faint, he's really good with her, okay?
So. Yeah, he's a real family man, so don't you dare question him, okay? And the funny part is that Lady Raven at the beginning of the movie, when she's like getting up the bus and all the kids are like screaming, and she's just, you see this lots of security around her. Like she has all these bodyguards. And then she's like backstage and he was like, okay, Lady Raven, can I like talk to you in private for a little bit? And she was like, sure, let's get into my room with no one else and talk to this stranger man. Which I think it makes a little bit of sense because she's portrayed as being very nice and very kind. So I'm sure she would have trust him. But even after that, I'm sure there would have been a lot of things that she could have done to stop him there. But again, we wouldn't have the rest bunkers part of the movie outside of the concert. So I'm very happy about that.
I do agree with you that I'm glad that we left like the the arena, just because I feel like that's when the movie really picks up. I do think that the movie could have ended about 3 different times when they're like outside of the concert. There's just a lot that happens like within that. Like I feel like you really could have ended the movie like when they're at the house and Lady Raven steals the Cooper's cell phone and she runs to the bathroom. I feel like a dramatic way to end that would just be a loud banging and then the fades to black. It'd be a crazy way to end it, but
I thought the great thing about all that sequence is that so Lady Raven at this point she's a hostage at this point.
Yes,
and she's like very much a hostage, and she was acting like Josh Hartnett was acting inside the concert, but it was the opposite. Instead of her trying to escape, she was trying to like build excuses to not leave. So she could find a way to save this guy, Spencer. By the way, I don't know what it says about me, but if I was Lady Raven, I mean, at the end, everyone got saved, but if this guy, he was like, I'm going to kill this guy. He wasn't even like, I'm going to kill you.
You know, you know what? I give M. Night Shyamalan like a lot of respect. It's revealed at the beginning of the movie. We didn't mention this, but the Cooper's got like this guy in the basement, and the way they reveal that, like Cooper goes to the bathroom and he looks at his phone to see the cameras he has set up, and he's got like carbon monoxide gonna releasing. If he releases it, presses his button at a certain time or something like that. But the thing that I respect so much about M. Night Shyamalan in this movie is that this elaborate trap to trap this horrible serial killer that is chopping people up and trapping people in like other people's basements. They set up this elaborate trap for him, all to save one Asian dude. No, I respect that, M. Night Shyamalan.
I respect that, because I was gonna say if I was Lady Raven, I would have let this man die for them to catch this guy. I think that would have been better. Like, okay, let's save this guy, which, by the way, if he had escaped, he would have killed anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he was going to continue killing people. But I know, like, I get her position is really stressful. So I think and again, she's portrayed as being really nice and really down to earth. By the way, I do want to mention real quick Kid Cudi.
Oh, such an amazing kind of like spot that he does, but I love Kid Cudi in this.
Kid Cudi, he's underrated. I think, like in the group of rappers turned actors, I think he's up there because he's always by the way, he never really has a huge role ever. I think the biggest role I've seen him is probably on X. And still, he's so funny. He's always playing these crazy characters. And he plays the Thinker. What a stage name. And I love that he was just so nasty for no reason. That he was just screaming at everyone. And I love that little bit right before Lady Raven comes out to greet him backstage. It was just screaming to this woman. And she was like, I'm so sorry. This not going to happen again. And he was like, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. You just ruined everything. Knock the door for me, okay? And she was like knocking, and he was like, knock harder, damn it.
It's ridiculous. I love that Kid Cudi is in this as well, just because this Trap is essentially a concert movie for Salika Shyamalan, or Lady Raven as she goes by, like, actually. And like one of my favorite concert movies that Kid Cudi basically produced for himself was Intergalactic from, I think it was last year or a couple of years ago. So it's nice seeing like that kind of two worlds coming together of Kid Cudi and Salika. I love his little look that he gives Riley at the end, just because it's so Kid Cudi coded in a way, because even though he's playing a different character, but I love
and
it.
And then he looks like Josh Hartnett. Daddy.
I love it. The way this
and
movie is
and
like
actually
remarkably
real.
horny.
He's real.
Yeah. The way this movie is like remarkably horny, but also very unhorny as well. Because we're jumping ahead a little bit, but the scene at the end where I've seen people loving this, but also just put your damn shirt on, Josh Hartnett, where he's
It's
trying to intimidate his wife at the very end of this movie, and she mentions, "Oh, I knew something about you. I knew something weird was about you. I smelled chemicals on you." And Josh Hartnett's just like, "Oh, really?" And he unbuttons his shirt and just is shirtless for the rest of the scene. I'm just
yeah. And I was like, damn, I thought at first he was like taking the shirt off because of the blood, and then it was like, but aren't you supposed to kill yourself after that? So what's the point? But and then I was like, okay, so maybe it's like the smell thing. And then I was like, might as well take your pants off too, right?
no, it's PG-13. We can't have
Yeah.
full on
That would have
nudity.
been really funny if it turned into, I don't know if you've seen Eastern Promises.
I've heard
So
of it.
there's this scene in Eastern Promises. So Viggo Mortensen plays like this Russian gangster, and then he's ambushed in this sauna, and he starts fighting these people, and he's naked. He's like fully naked.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But what do you think about Josh Hartnett shirtless? Since everyone on the internet thinks he should put his shirt on, but I think it's fine.
I don't have a problem with it. By the way, I didn't know Alison Pill was in this movie at all because she's like in nothing of the advertisements for it.
Mhm.
And then at the beginning, they just like Alison Pill, and oh, holy shit, I really like her. I think she's a great actress, and I think that she's probably the second best performance in the movie.
Not only is Alison Pill in this movie, but Haley Mills, the star of The Parent Trap, is playing a character in Trap where she's trying to catch a serial killer that is trapping a member of a member of like their family.
Yeah.
And that Shyamalan, you are a master at your craft. If he planned that from the beginning, I love him. I want to give him a big hug. So yeah, but let's get into a little bit of that scene where Cooper is at his wife's house, and you get that reveal where, oh, is he actually going to kill like his wife, or is he going to get caught? What do you think about the twist that happens here, where it was actually, correct me if I'm wrong, it was actually his wife that set everything up just because she suspected something was up?
Yeah, I don't know if that was really if there's a twist, I guess that's the one, but it's really a twist that I don't really care about. It's okay, so it's just a way to the police to get a sniff of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it a twist either, but if you're talking to some people, like that would be a twist. But
yeah, because I saw some people. Yeah, because I saw some people who were like, "Oh my god, it was her," and I was like, "Okay, that's fine, but who cares?"
Yeah, it was definitely, I like that kind of like development, but it's not really all that probable in a way, just because I don't know, like, where did she buy these tickets? Because Ticketmaster is not tracking anything or anything like that, where it's like, how did he know it wasn't her?
Yeah. By the way, right before Josh Hartnett take his shirt off and I like lose consciousness, because he was just like a little bit where she was like, "Oh, it was me. I got them like into you," and he asked her, "How do you know?" And in that moment, I thought she's about to say the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yes, it most definitely is, and then it leads into like her saying, "Before you kill me, do you want to have our daughter's pie just to celebrate?" Because I'm assuming she brought up the pie is because Riley got 3 A's and a B, and that's why she was able to go to the concert, and that's like them celebrating, "Hey, our daughter isn't dumb." So
yeah. By the way, Riley at this point, she's having the craziest day ever.
Yeah, she is having the craziest day ever. She's seeing her favorite artist live. She gets to go up on stage. and dance with her favorite artist. She gets to go backstage and
Yeah,
just
and
like
meet
and
her.
ride in a limo, and then she finds out that her dad is a serial killer. And
Yeah, and I love that she was like, also when she gets home and Alison Peel comes out with the other kid, and she was like, "Mom, this is my friend Lady Raven," and I loved the bit right after that. She was like, "Are you hungry?" And she was like, "Sure, let's go ahead and eat something."
like,
And then
okay,
she came to her and she was like, "Lady Raven, like
I
how
love
do I call you?"
I love that as well, but also another thing that made me laugh as well is really Lady Raven gets invited into the house and are you hungry or you want something to drink? When she gets into the house, a whole spread of snacks, just it's like they were waiting for her, and I'm just like, oh, is this gonna be something that M. Night Shyamalan reveals? Like the whole family is in on. Like,
Yeah,
is this
I thought that for a second because I was like, "Is this a whole plot to kill Lady Raven?"
that would have been nuts. And Night Shyamalan casts his own daughter in his own movie and then kills her on screen. I'm just like, oh geez, I hope this doesn't end up where I'm thinking it's going, but thankfully it didn't.
Yeah, because I guess it would have been weird that because there's a lot of stuff from Cooper that there's shades of Shyamalan in him. That there's a lot of things that he puts into him, like his kind of perfectionism and things like that. And
Mhm.
it would have been strange that he would make this character after him a little bit, and then okay, so let's cast my daughter in this role, and then let's have have him kill her.
Yeah, would have been a little. I would have to ask some questions, M. Night. Hey, I know you're trying to help your daughter out and get it and expand her career, but this is sending other messages, which I know a lot of people are talking about, like the nepotism, like for this movie. I don't care. Like
I don't care either. I don't give a shit. I'm sorry.
let brown people prop themselves up any day of the week, in my opinion. Like M. Night Shyamalan,
Exactly.
he promoted, like he produced Shauna's film, which
Yeah, and then
I didn't
and
talk
that
about. I didn't talk about
yeah.
much because I didn't care for that film all that much. But I hope she has a really long film career, just like her father. So,
Yeah, I'll say this. He produced The Watchers, directed by Shauna Shyamalan, his other daughter, and that movie fucking sucks. That movie's shit. But I will
you
say
said it. I just
good for him and good for her that they're able to get this position for him to push his daughter up because that movie sucked. It just sucks so bad. One of the worst movies of the year. But I'm sure her next film is gonna be really good. I have hope. I have hope for her.
was I haven't seen Servant yet. I hear that she's directed some really great episodes of Servant on
Oh,
Apple TV.
that's a really good show. That's a really good show.
Yeah, but I started thinking about this like yesterday about the Shyamalan daughters. I wonder if there's like a sibling rivalry. Whereas I was in the better movie, my movie made more money. I would want that so much, like at the dinner table, where Salika is just the rivalry that Riley had, like in the movie, like with her friend. Like we don't really talk about why they were fighting, like at school.
We should talk about the mom a little bit because she's the craziest character in the movie. Because what is wrong with her?
She's just a typical like white suburban mother.
Yeah, I love that she's don't. I think she said something like, "Don't piss me off, Cooper," and even him is like, "What the hell is wrong with you?"
Yeah, it's what the hell is wrong with you? Do you even know who you're talking to? I'm the
Yeah, but I love his reaction to that because he thought that the conversation was over. He was just like, "Let's talk about this some other day," and he was
yeah.
like, "Don't piss me off. Don't give me the bag. Let's settle this." First of all, it's not that serious. Come on. And it's like, and second of all, he was like, "Damn, this lady's crazy."
Right. And just like the lady's daughter, like when she sees Riley get up on stage and she gets so jealous and she's like, Mom, why am I on stage with Lady Raven? I love how they closed that that storyline there. Where it's just it was totally like a B storyline or maybe even a C storyline like in this movie, but they ended it in like a brilliant funny way. So
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure they're gonna end up like moving after what happened, but
Yeah.
Sure, like you danced with Lady Raven and you knew her and she was at your home, but like, well, my dad isn't a serial killer.
My dad isn't on the news where he killed hundreds of people.
Yeah.
It's wild. Continuing on, like in the stuff like after the concert, and more things that made me laugh is the scene where where Cooper steals the limousine and Lady Raven is trying to get out and let her fans know. And that's when the police presence closes in and you're like, oh crap, they got him in the situation.
Yeah.
And then Cooper does the most I'm sorry, it's so funny. Because
I don't even know how that happened.
I don't know how it happened either. He pulls like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off where he just says,
Yeah, I get it. You're gonna wear this Lady Raven shirt and like you blend in, but like a lot of people are gonna see you coming out of the car. What are you? What? How? And the best thing about this is that M. Night just doesn't bother with explaining you. He's just like already escaped. And he's like, okay, so he escaped. We're not gonna see how it happened, but it happened.
He's already established at this point that Cooper is like OCD and he pays attention to the details. I'm guessing he wanted us to believe, oh, he was able to find a hole in this trap to get himself out. And yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else? Any more final thoughts on Trap that you want? This movie's great. I know we're laughing, but I said in my Letterboxd review that this movie made me feel every single emotion possible. I was laughing, I was crying, I was terrified. I love this movie. I think this might actually make my top 10 of 2024 for sure.
Yeah, I think it might make my top 5. There are a lot of movies I haven't seen, but maybe it will. I should rewatch it when I have the chance. Because like I said, when I got into the movie, I was really frustrated. But then I totally forgot about everything. And then I just had the greatest time. And then I was like that meme who was like, you're coming out of the theater, a totally different person.
Right. You know what? Isn't that what movies are all about?
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's a great movie. That's because that's what movies are about. By the way, I do want to mention as well, because like I said, I do watch these movies for M. Night's directing. And I want to mention something because his previous films, since Split up until I believe which one's until Old, he has these films were shot by Mike Ulakis, who's also shot It Follows and Under the Silver Lake, etc. He's really good. I think he shot Us as well, Jordan Peele's Us. And yeah, he's just incredible. And he created this look for Shyamalan since Split that he has been able to move over to his next films. And even Knock at the Cabin, who he didn't shoot, I believe it was Jarin Blaschke who shoots Robert Eggers films. I think he shot Knock at the Cabin, which looks beautiful. But I love that on this one, so he enlisted Yambumukdipram, he's one of the best working today. He shot Challengers, he shot Call Me By Your Name, the Suspiria remake. He's just incredible. And I do have to say that he has been able to balance out every single one of these films. I think he might be like my favorite DP working today, because he also shot, I don't know if you've seen this movie called Memoria with Tilda Swinton.
It's on my watch list. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah, so that one is a little bit like a really slow film. He also shot another film called Uncle Bunmi that is also really slow. It's from the same director as Memoria. And he really makes up like the most beautiful imageries. He also, and what I wanted to mention as well, that he also shot this film called 13 Lives that Ron Howard directed. And I love the balance there because I'm not a Ron Howard fan. I don't have any trouble saying that. I think his films are terrible. But this film, 13 Lives, this is actually a really great film, but it's because of him, because the way he shoots this really incredible situation. And the thing about Shyamalan here is that he's able to work with all these DPs that are completely different, that have totally different sensibilities and different works. And he makes it work, and they don't feel like these movies belong to their DPs, like their previous works. Like, this is an M. Night Shyamalan film, And this one does look a little bit different because it does have that, how do I call it? He does this really specific lighting that he started using since he shot Call Me by Your Name, which is very, you can feel everything that's going on when you like see food. You can see what maybe it tastes like. You can feel pretty much everything that's going on around you, which is what I think Challengers probably was really popular as well. But still, even with all of that, with him being such a presence as a DP, M. Night Shyamalan he's such a presence himself behind the camera. So I really love this team up. Really, I think it's an incredible team up. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure he thought of that. I would hope that he saw the Suspiria remake and saw. I don't think if you ever saw that, but there's like this great ballet sequence at the end of the Suspiria remake that is just one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. And I like to feel that he saw that and he was like, I want this guy to do this concert film with me.
Yeah, I know you really love the Suspiria remake. You've tried to get me to watch it for a really long time. I watched the original Suspiria. I liked it for the most part, so I'm definitely going to watch it like this Halloween and just because I do really like the way this film is shot because you can really tell that they were. I love it like when filmmakers are limited to certain areas, and you can definitely tell like how small like these sets are, especially like in the concert. But the way the concert arena looks so big and the way it feels like an actual concert, like when there's moments in here in the concert where Lady Raven says, "Oh, I forget what she says. Oh, turn on your flashlight on your phone," and the phone screens like light up, and the way everything was in frame and the way everything was lit at that moment really made me feel like I was beside Riley and Cooper like at this moment and taking in like this moment. And it really brought me in for sure. So I totally agree. Like this film was shot brilliantly and a really great collaboration for sure.
Yeah, I hope we see some kind of recognition for him for Tayamba Mugdipra because aside from this, he shot Challengers, of course, very popular. He also shot Queer, the new Guadagnino movie with Daniel Craig. So he also shot that one. So hopefully he gets some love this award season.
Yeah, I hope so too as well. And I hope Shyamalan gets. He probably won't because this movie is camp, and I feel like M. Night Shyamalan knows it's camp. But I would like to see like any of these award shows like award camp for the first time ever. But I know it won't happen, but I can always hope. But I love that obviously for people if you made it all the way and you don't know, Alfie and I love this movie. I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. I don't think did you rate it yet on Letterboxd, Alfie?
I haven't. The strangest thing is that I actually have like on my laptop this sticky notes of all the films that I've seen this year, and I actually haven't rated like most of them. I don't know why, and I'm always like, okay, so I need to move this sticky notes into Letterboxd because otherwise, why do I even have that? No, I actually haven't logged it yet, but I'm planning to give it 5 stars. Yeah, I'll do that tonight probably.
I go through phases like that where I just write stuff down in my notes app and I'm like, oh, I've seen this, and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to log like the last couple months.
Yeah, I actually have, I think, logs on Letterboxd. I think I have like 45 or something, and in my notes I have like over 100 movies. I think like 130.
Oh jeez.
So I will log in those movies. Like I have movies from February that I haven't logged.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Trap is really great. Hopefully you didn't listen to this whole podcast before seeing it, but if you did, let us know what you think in the comments down below. But Alfie, this is the part of the podcast where you mention where people can find you online.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter. We do the movie ranking spaces from time to time. We usually have a topic. We bring a top 5. I don't want to say it's competitive because I feel that's a turnoff, but it is a little bit in a good way. I guess a bit of healthy competition. So whenever we're live, everyone's welcome to join in and share their thoughts without shame. A little bit of shame. Sometimes it depends on the movie.
Yeah, especially the movies that I sometimes bring to that space. It's a lovely space that you and everyone involved put on. And people can also follow you on Letterboxd at Fonzie the Snowman, I believe.
That's right, and that's the same one on Twitter. So
yeah, definitely follow Alfie. He's a great follow pretty much anywhere. All the links will be in the description box down below. If you like anything that I had to say during this podcast, please follow me anywhere on social media with the username at Marley Loves Film. I'm on Letterboxd, Threads, Twitter a little bit here and there, not so much anymore, but Instagram and Threads are like the main. Threads is popping off lately. I'm not sure if you're on Threads yet, Alfie, but the film Threads community is popping off. There's a lot of Twitter people migrating over because who on Twitter is, I don't know what he's doing anymore. But yeah, give me a follow pretty much everywhere and let's talk about movies. But with that being said, let's get back to the movies, Alfie. Hey everyone, once again, thanks for listening to The Lobby, a podcast part of the Real Lovers podcast feed. And I just wanted to come on here and announce that for the next several weeks here on The Lobby, we are going to be watching all of M. Night Shyamalan's films, starting with The Sixth Sense and ending with Knock at the Cabin. So if you really enjoyed this trap discussion that I had with Alfie Amaya, you're really going to enjoy the next several weeks here on The Lobby. Anyways, thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great day.